So Lydia, you're finding yourself for the third time in this position, sitting on a chair before or in your installation Barzakh, first time in Kunsthalle Basel, a second time in Triangle Marseille, now in Ghent. Both times you were being asked, what is this? Where are we? What do we see here and what do we hear? I would like to ask you the same question, because I think each time is a different one. There's a repetition, but of course there's been changes in the meantime. Time has passed. How would you describe now Barzakh at S.M.A.K, the installation?
You know, the show having just closed yesterday, there's a very different feeling that I have to the exhibition, knowing that now it's kind of going to be prepared shortly tomorrow to be packed up and go back to Algiers, to be reconstituted as an apartment that I will then return to live in some capacity. I don't know what I was looking for, but I knew as soon as I found this place that it was this. I mean, you know, I'd really projected this idea of what I imagined Algiers to be. And there's something about this which is so incredibly nostalgic, but like not for history that's mine. It always felt very theatrical, even in, you know, not only in the furniture, but like in its position. You know, it's like it occupies the third floor of this Haussmannian like apartment block that's looking onto the town hall, which has these incredible kind of dome-shaped kind of spires that at night they light up like green, and then there's always these birds that are kind of circling because it's just in front of the port. So it's like you can see the port, you can see the town hall, and then on the right is the Grand Poste, which is like, you know, the most kind of iconic building in the centre.
So as you describe it to me now, it seems like you're
it was like a
describing
fantasy.
like a film,
Yeah,
a film,
totally.
Like a film scenario and like a setting.
You know, as soon as I moved there in 2018, that's when the revolution started. And so a lot of my experience of living in this flat, you know, because it was opposite the town hall and next to the Grand Poste, and this was really the epicenter of where the protests, the manifestations were kind of like gathering. And so the soundtrack, the constant soundtrack of my living in this space was kind of chanting and like shouting, and people really like, you know, bodies in the streets and like that kind of rising. It was an important moment when I think a lot of people imagined that it would be a moment of like extreme change in the country, and there was so much energy surrounding that period. And then when COVID came, you know, it was kind of the perfect excuse to just completely squash the revolution, and suddenly, you know, they imposed these very strict curfews. I have a very specific relationship with this now, also having, you know, it's been kind of traveling across these various institutions and handled by so many people, and kind of the objects have taken like a different form almost, and to kind of reconstitute them as a home, which was always the plan for them, you know, that they would go back and I would reinstall it for the last time and continue to rent it as an apartment. But I think that's also to do with my fear of like letting go, and also because I still don't understand yet what my relationship will be when this becomes an apartment again. Like, I don't know if I've completely destroyed it or not.
A lot of people somehow reacted to it very emotionally and left you some notes and messages, so you got to know in one way or another how they felt about this apartment or this installation. Maybe you could
you know, I remember in Basel there were like a lot more things that went missing, interestingly enough, and things that were added. And in Marseille it was more like a lot more kind of people writing in my books and stuff, and there was a lot more like one of my entire sketchbooks became this kind of guest book, which I thought was really beautiful. And then, you know, yeah, of course, things added here and there, and I kind of noticed, like, but people adding very personal objects, like photographs, slipping things into books. This project is, you know, it does have that duality of, like, control, and then, like, the complete lack of control. You know, I think whenever you're kind of dealing with situations that are, like, somehow out of your hands, or that you don't have, you know, you are like at the mercy of these kind of institutions or like systems that exist, and like to grant you permission to do something, or you know, there is only so much you can do really to fulfill, you know, your duty, and then it's handed over to someone else to kind of decide. I had the question of like, do I continue to rent it? Like, is it going to be too weird for me to move back to that place and live in this? And then I just can't let go of it. Mm-hmm. Like, and I wonder if having done this, it's actually cemented my relationship with that place further than maybe it might have if this didn't happen. Because now there's a kind of real attachment that I feel to this apartment and to these objects that maybe could have been a bit more transient had I just moved in and moved out, you know. This will be the last time that it's shown ever, and I wanted to make something that would kind of outlive this moment. But the idea really began before, you know, in the first iteration of the show, Madame Tissera was like, can you please make me a little souvenir so that I can show my family what this is? And then, so it was kind of going to be this like scrapbook for my landlady to show her family what happened to this apartment.
Could this project after S.M.A.K still travel to other museums? Is it like a project that continuously could go on and would be like the endless quest of the home, or at a certain moment you think it's, you know, you can just close it off and say?
No, it's definitely done, I think. I mean, it just came, you know, things come to a natural end. Not that I'm saying that this is an end, but I think, you know, the real work will happen when everything moves back, mm-hmm. and when all of the objects have to go back into the apartment, and I have to set it up for the last time, and it's like back in its place, you know. I think that's really, that's what the work is.